Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning. Thank you very much for joining us in our very first virtual FIM 2020 event. And we are looking forward to this experience being something beneficial to all of you watching today. I know the big question on everybody's mind is what is the impact of coronavirus, of COVID-19 on franchising, and how can I shape my business to actually be sort of COVID-proof, if you would use that term. Well, there's no right answer to that question. In fact, there is no answer to that question per se. What we can do, however, is take steps to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on your economic wallet. So to do that, digitalization has seen some successes as how franchises around the world, not just here in Malaysia, have been impacted by the virus. If you look at the nations where franchising is, of course, a large segment of the economic pie, the BRICS nations, in Brazil, India, and of course, economies which are affected by the COVID-19 virus adversely, being in these emerging markets, you will see a trend. Franchises are cutting down costs, non-essential services are being reduced. In fact, there is a large stopgap measure taken in that we're moving into a leaner, meaner digital store. So what does this mean? How do you do it? How do you convert a physical business or something that's existed with patronage of customers coming in into a digital business where you don't expect any customers coming in, you do expect digital orders, and you're looking at things like a central kitchen per se. So all these questions will be answered here at this event. We're going to look at how not just the food chain franchise business, but also other types of franchise business have gone digital. And we're also going to probably delve into franchises that have existed digitally for many years now, and how they're taking advantage of what's happening around the world. So as we speak today, to give you some perspective, those of you watching from around the country, here in Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, and Putrajaya, we're experiencing the control movement, control order, the CMCO. It is something quite, we're used to being in lockdown, and we're being confined to certain hours of operation. We're being confined to certain businesses. And for those of you that have enjoyed dining out for a while now, we're also going to be confined on those fronts because the number of people that can dine out in any given restaurant has, of course, reduced. So all this is going to affect business adversely, and now, more than ever, the need to move into a digital model has definitely taken precedent. The discussion is going to be moving forward in that direction. So as we speak, joining us virtually, we have, of course, Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Alexander Nathalinggi, the Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, and his Deputy, Yang Berhormat Datuk Rosol bin Wahid. We also have, joining us, Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Seri Haji Hasnul Zamzam bin Haji Ahmad, the Secretary General to the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, who's really been on the forefront of championing the move to digital for franchising. So we'd like to thank the Secretary General for really pushing this narrative forward. Also joining us, of course, the Chairman of the Malaysian Franchise Association, Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Dr. Razali Hassan, who has definitely been galvanizing the troops, so to say, and pulling all franchises together, learning from each other, and helping create a more digital model. Joining us also, Yang Berusaha Dr. Alauddin bin Sidal, Deputy Secretary General. Yang Berusaha Mr. Muhammad Zahari bin Razali, who is also Deputy Secretary General, with different portfolios, Dr. Alauddin being Domestic Trade Development, and Mr. Muhammad Zahari being Consumer Empowerment. We also would like to thank all the heads of government agencies, the main committee members of the MFA, officers of the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, and our strategic partners for joining us virtually. To our friends from the media joining us virtually, we understand this is going to be nothing new for you. There have been many virtual events, so thank you for joining us, and we hope that you can take some of the stories and help champion the cause that we have today to the nation at large. We would also like to thank all the members of the MFA and our industry players for being a part of this event. This event, ladies and gentlemen, is once again brought to you in collaboration with the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs and of course, the Malaysia Franchise Association. We'd like to thank all our supporters and strategic partners for helping us put this event together. And we would like to thank each and every one of you watching digitally from wherever it is you may be. So I'll just go through a quick safety check for those of you watching within public spaces. Please do ensure that you are adhering to the SOPs. Do socially or physically distance, rather. That's the more appropriate term. Make sure you're distanced from the person next to you. Please do kindly use your face masks. And if you are, of course, in the comfort of your home, well, pull up a comfy chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy this digital experience. You can revisit the platform from time to time to check in on the content that you may have missed out. And do grab a cup of coffee if you're going to stay with us to the very end, because, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we're going to give you content, and more content across the 3 days of this live broadcast. So on that note, we also want to quickly remind you to sanitize, wash your hands with soap as often and frequent as you can. Let's help to flatten that curve. So without further ado now, I would like to turn you over to the chairman of the Malaysian Franchise Association, who will be now saying a few words of welcome. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Razali.
Okay, thank you very much to the MC of the day, Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi, Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Yang Berhormat Datuk Rasul Wahid, Deputy Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Sri Haji Hasnul Zamzam bin Haji Ahmad, Secretary General of KPDN HAP, Senior Ministers of the Ministry, Government Departments and related agencies, the main committee members of MFA, franchise entrepreneurs, exhibitors and conference participants of FIM 2020, media partners, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. On behalf of all the franchising community, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to the Honorable Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi, for his continuous recognition and timely support to the country's franchise industry and to MFA. May I also have the pleasure in welcoming all of you to the virtual Franchise International Malaysia 2020 Virtual FIM 2020 Exhibition and Conference jointly organized by the Ministry of Trade and Consumer Affairs and MFA. Ladies and gentlemen, Franchise International Malaysia FIM has been organized since 1994, and this year is 27th edition of FIM. This exhibition and conference is one of the largest annual franchise exhibition in Southeast Asia and is the one-stop center for entrepreneurs and international franchise fraternity to promote franchise business products, services, and to expand their business network in this region. FIM is also endorsed and recognized by the World Franchise Council, Asia Pacific Franchise Confederation, and Malaysian External Trade Development Corporation, MATRADE. FIM 2019, the 26th edition, managed to assemble exhibitors from 14 countries, had 12,000 visitors from almost 40 countries during the said 3 days exhibition held at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre. This was a good benchmark for FIM, and I believe that it will be robust for years ahead. The world is muddling through a very challenging year in this 2020. COVID-19 outbreaks is not only a global pandemic and public health crisis, it has also severely affected the global economy and financial markets. It has changed the concept of physical event to a completely immersive online business trade show. Therefore, in a leap towards conducting business in this new COVID-19 era, KPDN HEP and MFA for the first time is hosting this franchise International Malaysia 2020 show, FIM 2020, virtually from today, the 15th of October till 21st October 2020. Virtual FIM 2020 is the first franchise exhibition in Malaysia. We also understand the other countries like Indonesia, Portugal, and the United States are also organizing their franchise via virtual exhibition this year. FIM virtual exhibition is designed to replicate the appearance of a live event, which creates a virtual presence of exhibiting brands to ensure a realistic and impressive experience for both exhibitors and visitors to connect in a non-restricted virtual space. Customized exhibition booths and structures are available across the platform, where visitors can conveniently visit and browse the exhibitors' offerings and make appropriate decisions while engaging with the different brands via live chat and video conferencing. The 7 days event is free for visitors and is a great platform for entrepreneurs who are looking for franchise business opportunity, where hundreds of exhibitors showcasing and displaying their franchise business as well as their products and services in a single virtual marketplace. I was informed by the Secretariat Virtual FIM 2020 has attracted participants from local and international franchise brands from a few countries like South Korea, Indonesia, Belgium, Taiwan, Italy, and Netherlands, who are ready to entertain the visitors on their virtual booth in the virtual exhibition hall. Apart from the virtual FIM 2020 exhibition, Franchise International Conference is an additional highlight of the week-long event. This franchise conference will be represented by franchise experts, which bring across various challenges and case studies that is happening in the franchise industry in Malaysia as well as in the region, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. Besides this virtual event, also will conduct a special live session which will feature a short presentation of franchise packages by the exhibitors and short briefing on franchising by MFA, which will be held at 11 a.m. daily throughout the exhibition. These are amongst the value-added elements that will further assist both the exhibitors as well as the visitors to get more exposure and gain knowledge and information. Throughout the 7 days event, we believe that this initiative will align with the government's goal to make Malaysia the franchise hub for ASEAN and the Middle Eastern region. Beyond 2020, towards digitalization franchising is the theme chosen for the virtual FIM 2020. As the front lines of the Malaysian economy, we see the need for the business community to take digitalization seriously, and there is no better times to adapt digitalization as now, given that the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the way people do business and led to more e-commerce transactions amongst the people. Due to radically change in the global marketing environment, franchisepreneurs must be able to adapt to changes in time to stay relevant and competitive. We are now in the era of big data, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. Ladies and gentlemen, at the international ground, MFA, together with other regional franchise associations, had formed the Asia Pacific Franchise Confederation, APFC, which was registered in Malaysia. Apart from APFC, MFA is also an active member of World Franchise Council, WFC. Being a member of these two prestigious international franchising bodies has positioned MFA as the leading franchise body in Malaysia. With this calibration, MFA have a better understanding on how developed countries manage their franchise business and what programs are effective to manage based on demand of the franchise fraternity. MFA has a range of programs to encourage the development of franchise industry in Malaysia, including franchise training and seminars, in-buying missions, road shows, franchising networking session, and Malaysian Digital Franchise Expo under the Enhanced Franchise Development Program, known as EFDP. All these would not be possible without the assistance and support of the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. Therefore, I hope the government will continue its efforts in placing franchising as one of the growth engine for the economic growth. I wish to record my profound gratitude to all stakeholders for their contribution throughout all these years, and my wish that MFA, KPDN HEP, and the related agencies shall work together for the greater growth of franchising business in Malaysia. Last but not least, and not forgetting the untiring efforts contributed by the organizing committee in ensuring the virtual FIM 2020 exhibition and conferences to run smoothly and successfully so that it could achieve the objective set out for the progress and development of franchise industry both in Malaysia as well as abroad. With that conclusion, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you. Terima kasih and stay safe.
Thank you very much to the chairman of the MFA for starting us off. And as mentioned, the conference will play a big part in focusing on content delivery and answering some of your pertinent questions. Of course, there are other questions besides the move towards digital, which affect the franchise industry. Some may look at it and see a money-making scheme of sorts. But we're going to dispel that myth. Just to add to that conversation, of course, I said earlier, Malaysia is one of the earliest countries in the region with legalization towards the franchise industry. Our Franchise Act was enacted in 1998. With that on the back burner, it's time to now take you virtually to our Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. Thank you, Yang Berhormat, for joining us. On that note, I would like to now introduce Yang Berhormat Dr. Alexander Nantalinggi, the Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. MC. Yang Berhormat Dr. Rusul Wahid, Deputy Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Haji Hasnul Zamzam bin Haji Ahmad, Secretary General of the Ministry of KPDN HEP. Good morning, honorable viewers and participants, ladies and gentlemen. I feel blessed today, for we are able to be here together celebrating the launching of our first ever virtual Franchise International Malaysia 2020 or FIM 2020. While we, together with the rest of the world, are fighting against the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, we have decided not to stand idle, but to push forward this annual exhibition with new approach, which I believe is the way to go for the coming years. For this, I would like to congratulate the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs and Franchise Association of Malaysia, MFA, for their great effort in making the FIM 2020 Virtual Expo a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, FIM 2020 brings together local and overseas franchising communities, which include franchisors, franchisees, franchise experts, as well as the would-be franchisors and franchisees. The theme for FIM 2020, Beyond 2020, towards digitalizing, franchising is not only relevant, but also timely, as the world is facing with various challenges today. I am pleased to note the participation of our friends from near and far, which include participants from Southeast Asian region, as well as other countries from different parts of the globe. This augurs well for the government's policy towards encouraging the growth of wider international network amongst Malaysian franchise businesses, for them to access the opportunities offered by a more globalized business world. Ladies and gentlemen, as ordinary citizens and consumers, we are well aware of the existence of a number of well-known franchise brands, but little do we know about the size of this sector in the economy on how they operate. There are several advantages of franchising as a means of expanding businesses, and this includes the low cost factor to the franchisors, the ability to utilize local managerial and entrepreneurial expertise, the flexibility in the forms of joint agreements to foster business growth, the low level of the risk to the franchisees, and opportunities for business expansion in both domestic and international markets. As for the general public, franchising has indeed resulted in better delivery service to society and able to fulfill customers' needs more effectively. Franchising has grown to be a significant force that propels the internationalization of businesses. The resultant higher value created from this business globalization has profited businesses, communities, nations, as well as international community as a whole. Respected members of the audience, the Malaysian government provides a great deal of support to the franchise business in the country. We adopt a pro-franchise policy and welcomes franchisors from within and outside the country to set up businesses in Malaysia. We believe that the healthy growth of the franchise business will help prosper the nation, benefiting not only businessmen, consumers, bankers, supporting service providers, and the government, but also citizens and consumers at large. At the same time, the development of homegrown franchisors is part of the overall development agenda of building domestic capability for wealth creation and prosperity. Within that policy framework, programs aimed at the new young entrepreneurs and those amongst the low-income groups to gain fair access to resources have been put in place. These measures include the setting up of various special funds that are made available to franchisors and franchisees through financial institutions. I urge the ministry, other related ministries and agencies to put courage and put concerted effort in making Malaysia the franchise hub for ASEAN and the Middle East region. Ladies and gentlemen, looking beyond 2020, the government is in the midst of preparing the Services Sector Blueprint 2.0, which underline franchising as one of the strategic industries. Malaysian franchisors recorded a total of 11.2 billion ringgit of sales generated in the year 2018. They provided stable jobs to more than 60,000 workers with estimated 1 billion ringgit Malaysia contribution to salary and wages at minimum. Therefore, in the upcoming 12 Malaysia plan to 2021 to 2025, we are expecting new budget allocations to continue and improve the enhanced Franchise Development Program, EFDP, to nurture and encourage more Malaysian franchise exports to foreign countries. I am happy to note that through the EFDP initiatives taken by the government and coordinated by MFA, 66 Malaysian franchise brands have penetrated to 65 countries, establishing more than 3,000 outlets overseas. Now, this is approximately 10% out of the total number of Malaysian homegrown franchises. Our efforts in the year 2020 were hindered by the COVID-19 pandemic, but further expansions can be achieved through digitalizing of franchise activities such as FIM 2020, Virtual Expo, and a few other digital expansion programs that we have in our pipeline. There is a great deal of hard work that needs to be done in order to scale up our franchise capabilities so that we can become world-class players. In doing so, we must remember to uplift our standards by offering products and services not only intended for the global market, but which are also customized to suit local cultures. I would like also to offer and extend our invitation to the foreign franchising communities to make Malaysia the hub from which to establish your central facilities and launch your franchise businesses within the region. The enabling business environment and the pro-business government should convince you that Malaysia is an excellent choice as a hub to manage your investments. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end my speech, I wish you every success in your exhibition. My thought and prayers to all in your business endeavor while combating COVID-19 at the same time. And together, we play our role in these trying times. With that note, it is with great pleasure that I now officially launch Virtual Franchise International Malaysia 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat, for that official welcome remark from your side as the Minister, and also the official keynote to indicate that we have officially launched the virtual FIM. So ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy this presentation of what we hope to encapsulate during FIM 2020. Welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you are sitting back, relaxing, and enjoying the experience so far. Now, coming up, we do have several discussions that we will be focusing on, and we also would like to invite you to visit our virtual exhibition. Take a look at all the various franchises on display, and also, if you're enticed by any one of them, you can, of course, interact with our franchisors directly and find out just how the mechanics of said franchise business works. So at 10 a.m., we will have the Secretary General joining us in conversation with two other expert panel members to deliberate on our first topic of the day. So for the conference portion, we shall begin at 10 a.m. We look forward to seeing you in about 10 minutes. Do stay tuned and do enjoy this virtual experience. Welcome to FIM 2020.